Adam Nogueira, thanks for coming on, my man.
No worries. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, excited to for you to share your wins with the world. Why don't you tell before we get in to it? Why don't you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself? Like, where do you work? A little about your business, then we'll jump into the experience with Agent Launch.
Sure. So I live in Southern California, specifically Temecula. I've been in real estate for a little less than 8 years. Had quite a bit of success in the past building a mega team with some partners. And in early 2023, I decided to separate from that partnership and rebuild my business. And throughout that process, of my career, I've worked a lot of pay-per-click leads and coached a lot of agents, as I mentored them with the big team to have a lot of success with those. So I was excited to jump in to Agent Launch specifically for that aspect of really systemizing it and finding a way to scale that easily versus, trying to figure it out as I've done in the past. And just kind of, plug and play some systems that seem to be working for some top producers that I saw in different forms of content that you guys had put out. So that was a big draw. And YouTube. YouTube was one of my big reasons for joining Agent Launch as well, and creating, those opportunities that were lower in the funnel and would essentially give me a call and kind of already have built some trust, by watching and consuming the content that, you guys coach us to create. And I've had a ton of success, in rebuilding the business and kind of sticking to that game plan. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we kind of got into the experiences already, which is great. So, like, tell us how long have we been working together now, and a little bit about kind of where you were at before, and then we can start to talk about the ramp up to this year, which is May 2024.
Right on. So yeah, I joined Agent Launch, I believe, back in April of 2023. Before I joined Agent Launch, I had only closed a couple of deals that year through my sphere. I hadn't started doing any kind of paid advertising or anything like that. Just working off of my database primarily and working, my SOI on Facebook and things like that.
Awesome. And so, obviously, why don't you talk us through like how last year closed out, and then how we've been doing so far this year.
Sure. So last year I had a great year. I ended up selling just about 13 million in gross sales, made just about 250 in commission, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Um, you know, a lot of the sales last year were from my sphere, but I did start to, really see some traction towards the end of the year. Just because the way I built my business last year was to really get engaged with the community, focusing on, networking and things like that, as well as, being really present on Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
then, doing my best to hammer the leads. Um, I can't, fault Agent Launch for not, getting a ton of opportunities right out the gate. I think I was just trying to do too much all at the same time, if that makes sense.
Very
So
common story. Yeah.
towards the end of the year, I ended up bringing on an ISA, and Agent Launch helped me train that ISA and really get them plugged into the systems. And from there, we really started to see some good momentum. I did end up closing a couple leads, PPC leads, I think three by the end of the
Mm-hmm.
year. I
Okay.
ended up doing only 14 deals last year, but three of those were through pay per click, which was great. A lot of these leads are much higher in the funnel typically, but
Mm-hmm.
a couple of them, were actually really quick. I got them on the phone and we ended up closing them within, 30 to 40 days, something like that.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so there was some really solid wins there with PPC. But for a rebuilding year, it was everything I could have expected or hoped for, I should say. And it was really about systemizing for this year and getting a lot of momentum, which I've definitely feel like I've caught.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always position it as a long play. Like, you'll get those ones that are 30 to 60 days out for sure, but most of the money's made in the long term. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because now we're about a year in, and this year has been a bit of a different story. So why don't you walk us through? You did 13 last year, three were from us, and then what about this year so far? And keep in mind it's May 16th today.
Yeah, so it has been extremely consistent, since the end of last year, getting all my systems dialed in and getting my team in place. I'm closing my 12th transaction for the year. 10 of
Mm-hmm.
those out of the 12 were buyers. And
Mm-hmm.
out of those 10, five of them came from pay-per-click. And today I'm also sending out a listing agreement, excuse me, a listing agreement for a client that's looking to sell and then purchase, and that was a pay-per-click lead as well. So hands down, it's been the best year I've personally had. I will say, kind of going back to my history in real estate, hasn't necessarily been solely focused on myself. So that is different, but I've never had this kind of momentum before. I would
That's
definitely
awesome.
say
So
it's been a game
you,
changer.
you have four deals done, and then one you were mentioning is a buy sell that you have in the pipe right now.
So I've closed five pay-per-click leads so far
Okay,
this year, and I have a buy and sell that is in process.
awesome. And you've done, sorry, how many do you say total? 12?
12 total so
12.
far this year.
So you're pretty much about to surpass last year in May,
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
yeah.
That's awesome, man. I mean, what's been the secret behind all of that? Is it just the time? Because I talk to people all the time. It's like sometimes it's yes, you get better at working the system, but sometimes it's also time to allow some of the leads to mature, if you will. Usually, it's a bit of both. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a bit of both, certain leads I mean, one of the pay-per-click leads that I closed this year, I had been working for 10 months. Another, that's just one example. Another one of the pay-per-click leads I closed in about 45 days, you know. It's not to say that they're necessarily easy leads. One of the leads actually, their interview process was having four different agents take them out and show them properties. So I definitely had to set myself apart. But the
Mm-hmm.
systems and processes that you guys have helped me create allowed me to, not just focus on that one client, but work through the database consistently. Um, and that's where I think the real fortune is, right, is in the consistency in these different channels, and by having those systems from agent launch and the coaching and the ISA, was a huge plug, to my business, allowed
Mm-hmm.
me to get my time back to do other things to generate those other seven deals that I've already closed this year, if that makes sense.
It does totally. And at the end of the day, like leads are people and people are unpredictable. And oftentimes I say this to everyone, like leads are on multiple websites, probably getting prospected by multiple agents, whether you get them from Zillow or you get them from anywhere. It's like, why are they going to choose you? And you always have to show them that. And you're not going to win everyone, but it's just about, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. And if you're doing the right things, it'll work out for you over time. And you'll get better and better and better at winning more of those battles if you just keep doing things right.
100%. And, I think the foundation is where it all happens, right? And that's where I really got a solid foundation with, working the different systems that, you guys recommended and, really working closely with the ISA that you guys helped me train and, stay in touch with them to where whether it's a pay-per-click lead or a referral or, whatever it is, just plugging them into that foundation that we've created is allowing me to just continue to do what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Out, on
Mm-hmm.
appointments, talking with people, trying to get the next opportunity into that pipeline, and help people, how they want to be helped and not having to do it all has been huge.
Awesome, man. So, what would you say to someone who's on the fence? I mean, I have these conversations all the time where people are like, maybe they start price shopping or they start kind of, they've, what often happens is they say, oh, I need some time. And then the next week goes by and they just forget about the value or they forget why they were interested in the first place. What would you say to that person who's kind of on the fence about making a decision and just wondering if we're the real deal and if things work? Because there are, to be frank, a lot of bad marketing agencies out there in real estate. What would you say to that person?
I definitely have nothing but good things to say about Agent Launch. I actually referred you guys another person, Dedrick Lewis, who
Oh,
I'd
well, thank
recommend
you.
that you guys get him on here for a testimonial because his game is blowing up. I mean, he's already got, one under contract for, I think, 2.7 million, an NBA player, of all people. I'm kind of frustrated because we're in the same market. I'm like, why didn't I get that lead, right? But no, it's one of those things where if you just look at the pay-per-click aspect and building out the systems and processes, it's well worth it. And then you add in the other aspects of the coaching. Something else I didn't mention was I actually just got my first YouTube lead for 2.5 million, and that
Wow.
lead was so hot. Like they already knew they wanted to work with me. They were already a raving fan almost. You know what I mean? So
YouTube leads are the
um,
best.
yeah, it was a weird experience, honestly. It was like they already
Well,
knew me.
I think this is a good point because like when you generate leads through pay per click, like they don't know you yet. So you have to go through the process of helping them get to know you. Whereas YouTube and referrals already know you. Well, they don't referrals don't know you, but they have like a trusted person referring, them to you. So there's a built-in trust. YouTube, it's like, yeah, they feel like they might know you a little bit and they've already decided they want to work with you. Whereas pay per click and other cold lead sources, like they don't know you yet. So you have to use the systems we put in place to like warm those people up. And Diedrich's coming on for one of these videos tomorrow, actually. So we will talk to him.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I would just say, don't think about it too long because indecision is what kills growth, right? And,
It's a good point.
I think I'm extremely grateful that I did it. It wasn't, cheap investment, but good things are usually not cheap, right? So I don't regret it. The only thing I regret is not maximizing it more. I'm so busy that I don't make it to all the trainings and things like that. But luckily they're recorded, so I do need to be more proactive about going back and listening to those things.
Totally, man. And these days, I mean, if people are looking for a cheap option, I refer them elsewhere. It's just not what we do. We have a very high level of service, and I think we stand by, as you know, what we do a lot because we know it works. We've been doing this for a very long time, and I think there's always cheaper options, and generally, you get cheaper results, and the difference can be monumental between those.
100%.
I've seen a lot of
100%.
people where like you go with the cheap option and you break even or you make a little bit of money in a year and you go with a good option and you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars and it's like it can be that big of a difference.
Well, and that's
um
exactly what I've experienced. Just from the pay-per-click leads that I've closed, it's paid for agent launch 10x.
there you go. 10x return, everybody.
And
I
that's,
love it.
yeah, that's true. I've already closed eight or nine.
And
And in my
the
price point, the average price point is about 900 grand,
yeah
2%
the
commission to two and a half. Do the math.
and the best part is you're a year in. This is just the beginning, in my opinion. Like the real where the numbers get really juicy is when you're looking back 3 years from now and you're like, wow, I'm getting leads now that I generated 2 years ago who are closing. And then you get one that's like an awesome buy sell at $2 million, and you're like, whoa, that one lead made me a lot of money, and that was from 2 years ago. And it just kind of can snowball, and that's what I love about it.
Oh, yeah. And it's just amazing how quickly it can happen if you're committed to taking action and being consistent. Yeah,
Totally.
last year I did 14 transactions. This year, I'm hoping I'll be doing 35 to 40. The following year, I want to try and push that number to 60 to 75, and
Hmm.
that's the beauty of having a solid foundation is that you can scale it if that's your goal.
Totally. Well, hey, Adam, I really appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing your experience. It really means a lot because, like I said, there are a lot of other companies out there who swindle people into believing they do have a winning product, but at the end of the day, most of them don't. And yeah, man, I look forward to continuing to work together. And thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure, Eric. Thank you, buddy.